Hello, and welcome to Evergreen Habitat's third annual Faith Partners event. We are so glad that you have chosen to Zoom in with us today and looking forward to this wonderful opportunity to get to know you and for you to get to know more about Evergreen Habitat for Humanity. In our previous events of Faith Promise events, we have been able to offer lunch. But this year, because of the COVID restrictions, that's not possible. Nonetheless, we have planned a very, very exciting program that I'm looking forward to see with you. You have been muted, and it would be helpful if we can stay muted for the program. That will help the speakers a great deal. Before we begin, I'd like to offer a prayer. Gracious and loving God, giver of all good gifts, we are grateful for your presence with us today, and we are especially aware of the opportunity we have to be part of the great Habitat for Humanity family, making a difference around the world. In our own community, we are well aware of the need for adequate, safe, and affordable housing. And so we ask that you would help us to come together to partner in making those homes available for those in need. Amen.
Amen.
We have two goals today. One is to inform, and the other is to inspire. You will hear a lot about what Habitat has been doing in this very unusual pandemic year. And we want to also encourage you to continue your support as faith leaders in Clark County. And if this is a new connection to you, we are excited to have you see what we are doing and understand some of the dynamics of how we do it, and then to join with us in partnership. Our first speaker this morning is a Habitat homeowner, Christabel Bear. Christabel lives in one of our faith-built homes, and you'll be hearing a lot more about the faith-built home. That home was built in partnership with our friends at Salmon Creek United Methodist Church, who raised funds and spent countless hours alongside Christabel as she was building her home. She purchased her home in 2008 and in 2019 celebrated the achievement of paying off her mortgage. Christabel has recorded a message for us about her journey in Habitat. So let's listen.
Okay, I'm Christabel, and I have a husband, Andrew, and a daughter, Carissa. And my daughter is 20, she'll be 21 this summer, so she has moved out and doesn't live with us in the house anymore. My husband, I wasn't married at the time when I bought the house. It was just me and my daughter. And then we met about 6 months after I bought the house, and then we dated for 2 years before we got married. And we moved into the house in December of 2008, so it's been a little over 12 years. Well, I was living in a mobile home that I had actually purchased for $500 from a friend of the family, and it needed a lot of repairs, and family had helped me repair it, but it needed a lot more than I could do. I was young and I had a young daughter, and I didn't know how to do anything, and like some people at work loaned me a saw, but I didn't have anybody to hold the boards, so I was cutting the boards too short to do the repairs. And so I was looking for somebody to help me to do repairs. I wasn't looking for a different house. I just wanted somebody to fix it, help me fix it, so that I could figure out what to do and that we didn't have to worry about it. It had like water running through the walls that you could hear at night and a lot of other issues. And so I found, I think it was maybe the Vancouver Housing Authority, and they told me about Habitat. I just pretty much knew it was going to happen because I just was like, it's got to happen, and so it's going to happen. Um, and so I was actually at the American Cancer Society. They have like the Relay for Life. And so I was there, and both me and my neighbor Kelly, that also has a Habitat house, when we were both there when we learned that we had been accepted into the program. So we were both like, yay! So it took a while. The actual building of the house was probably, I would say, 6 months of every single weekend coming out and doing something on the house. So the more exciting parts were like the framing was a lot of fun, the exterior painting. I remember doing the siding, sawing the boards. That was probably my favorite part. When the house was being built, then and my mobile home wasn't too far from here. And so like every day after work, I would come by and just sit by the house and cry and walk around and just look at it. You know, even if there wasn't anything here, you know, just the foundations here, I would still be sitting here crying. And then, yeah, and pick up if there was any debris. You know, usually the volunteers cleaned up pretty good. You know, if they had something to work on, like the drywall or whatever, that I couldn't do during the weekend. But I'd come and clean up nails, clean up, you know, wood or anything, and yeah. And then the garden, I kind of was quite fortunate because usually Habitat doesn't do a lot with the garden. You just get the lawn seed and you get your city required tree. But the group that was sponsoring my house, they knew I loved gardening, and I had a lot of plants at the mobile home that I brought with me that they helped me plant. And they built me a grape arbor, which I was super excited about. And I get lots of grapes every year, and it's really wonderful. I was so excited. They put the grape arbor in, and planted all these trees, and it was like a lot of people. So it was Salmon Creek United Methodist Church was the group that sponsored my house, and that day I don't know how many people there were here. There were probably like 60 people or 100 people here. I think it was like a 2-day installation, and there was people everywhere. It was pre-COVID, of course, and that was super exciting. Well, my daughter was eight, and then she knew something was happening. In fact, she got to come and help paint the exterior. That was, you know, she wasn't allowed to have like kids on the property where we were building. But at the end, when the building was over, then she got to help with the painting the exterior. She got to help with the picking the color for her room. We actually had, I don't think Habitat usually does this, but we had a volunteer again that was an interior designer, and she helped us to choose our colors for the house. And so my daughter got to pick Scented Valentine for her room. So that was exciting. And it was interesting because it wasn't until she was grown up that I realized she didn't quite understand it, and she thought that I was getting a house for free. And so she thought that's why I was doing better off than my ex-husband. And so I had to explain to her, no, that's not why we're where we're at. It's, you know, it's still hard work, and we're still paying for the house. And, you know, you hear me and my husband Andrew talking, you know, don't you hear that every month where we're talking about paying the mortgage? That's what it is. We're paying the mortgage. But at the same time, we wouldn't have been able to get this deal if people hadn't come and hadn't volunteered all this time to help us build the house, and people that volunteered for the materials. Like, we picked out lighting fixtures, and those were donated materials that were at the restore. So I kind of had to explain that. Well, I wouldn't necessarily say anything changed right away because I was still having nightmares about water running through my house like a year and a half after I moved in here. So that was like a slow change of, you don't have to wake up in the middle of the night listening for if there's a problem with the water anymore. You don't have to do that. And longer term was I got married, and part of that was that when I was living in the trailer park, I didn't feel like that was a good time to add somebody to my life. I wanted to be more stable so that the person that came into my life for the rest of my life would be the right person. And so I just think that helped. Okay, so in the beginning, it still didn't feel, like I said before, it still didn't feel like my home. So when I first, when we were building the house, they had like extra cement left, and the um, person in charge of the construction of my house kept saying, you know, do you want to put your kids' handprints in the cement, or you know, like on the back porch or something to memorialize it? And I was just thinking in my head, what if I can't afford to pay for this house, and what if we lose this house? And it sounds stupid, but I was thinking, and then it devalues it because I did something to personalize the house, so I wasn't going to change anything at all. And then later I just started adding to the mortgage. So like I would add, if I could, $60 a month. But whenever I got like a bonus from work, then I would put that in extra. And then we got closer to having a lot of it paid off. And one year I looked at everything. I said, I think if I look at this, that maybe we could get this paid off in 3 years. So then I started figuring out how much a month to put down to get it paid off in 3 years. So a couple of months went by, and I looked at everything again, and I'm like, I wonder if we might be able to get this paid off in 2 years. And a couple of months went by again, and I looked at it again, and I thought, you know, I bet I could do 1 year. I bet I could do 1 year. And so there were several months of paying it down, planning for that 1 year, and then all of a sudden I realized, you know, I bet we could just pay this off. And so I did it, and my husband at first, he was hesitant. He didn't see the value in doing that, but it was a stressor on him, just having a bill every month, you know. And so he, I think, is the one that actually benefited the most out of it, because when we paid it off, I just noticed that his like stress level, like maybe 3 months later, was like way down, you know, because he just never had to think about it. It doesn't have to think about it. And so that's been good. It brings about a lot of peace that I never thought that I would have. I thought it would be peaceful, but it's different. My house, 1 year, it was on the Clark County Natural Gardens tour, and that was a lot of fun. I think, I can't remember how many people, I think like over 100 people, maybe 120 people came through to look at the garden, and I had the pictures of when the construction was first done, when the plants were teeny tiny and Habitat first put them in, and then everybody got to see what it looked like afterwards. So that was a lot of fun. It's just that peace again. It's just the peace of, you don't have to wake up like worrying about surviving. It's just, you know, if you can't afford affordable housing, then that's all you're thinking about. Maybe some people don't mind and can live like that, but mentally that's hard on you. You know, you're always thinking of, what else can I do? How else can I save? And I just think that that's hard on a person. And like this year, we had to have our roof redone, and it's not because of anything that Habitat did wrong. We had a manufacturer defect in the shingle that like hundreds of thousands of homeowners everywhere had. So we had to have the roof redone, and then part of it was paid for by the manufacturer and stuff, but we had to pay the other part. And that's the biggest thing is, okay, this event happened, and it's not a crisis, because every time before, even, you know, like we needed $2 for electric bill, or oh, the car broke down and we need $300. Crisis, crisis, crisis. And this time it was like, oh, we need a new roof, and it's not a crisis. And so that, I think, has been really nice. It's like calm in the house, and yeah, and everything's like, and we can just keep going about our day.
That was Larry that you just saw, and Larry will be coming back in a few minutes to complete the cycle of the the faith-built home for Christabel. In my excitement to get you into the program and experience all of these wonderful parts of the event, I neglected to introduce myself. I'm sorry. My name is Bruce Armstrong. I am a retired pastor, and I have been part of the Habitat Faith Relations team, as well as a board member. So my love and commitment to Habitat is very great, so I'm glad to be here as your guide in the journey of this day. Our second presenter, our second speaker today is Dr. John Greves. John has been a supporter and a friend of Habitat for a number of years. In his professional life, John has practiced as a cardiologist for 40 years here in Clark County through the Vancouver Clinic. Now, I'm going to be way over my skis here for a few minutes because I don't know, I know very little about cardiology, but I do know that one of the issues that is routinely treated by cardiologists is an enlarged heart. And I suspect that Dr. John has treated many patients who are have physically enlarged hearts and all the implications of that. But I can tell you very confidently that I know John Greves has a enormously enlarged spiritual heart. He lives his faith by serving others. John currently is on the board of FISH, an agency in Vancouver that provides food for needy. He is also involved in the food bank here in Clark County. He gathers with other physicians to provide medical care through the free clinic, and is currently also on the board of the Peace Health Southwest Washington Medical Center. In his personal faith place, First Presbyterian Church of Vancouver, John and his wife Mary are relentless advocates for those in need, in small needs and in large needs. And he is a great example of how to express Christian faith in such meaningful ways. John is going to share some of his reflections about our mission and also how we can perhaps extend our mission in other faith communities here in Clark County. So John Greves, thank you for being here, and let's listen.
Well, Bruce, thank you very much. And that's a lovely introduction. You always go a little bit above and beyond. So thank you. And I also want to thank Lindsay Smith, who has worked with me along with Josh and Nancy Gaston in inviting me to do this. It's been over a year that we've worked on this and tried to put the entire program together. So congratulations to Lindsay for getting all of that done, and certainly to Josh and the board for all the work that they've done through this pandemic year to keep Habitat going. So in the last few months, I've spent time thinking about Habitat for Humanity. I mean, almost in that phrase is the mission statement of what we're talking about. We are trying to house, and they have this wonderful byline: we build strength, stability, and self-reliance through shelter. And I have to say, I really like that, but I'm going to take that and try and go one step further to talk to all of you about the transformations that take place when a Habitat home is built. So I'm going to use the byline, we transform lives through shelter. Now, before I develop this whole transformation process, though, I am going to use two quick little sidebars that will sort of play into this, I think, as we go along. And all of us, I'm sure, listening have had the impact of a wonderful teacher in our lives. And I had a teacher by the name of Miss Lenore Cupp, who was a speech teacher at William Henry Harrison High School, where I was graduating in 1964. And they'd come up with a new program at that point in time where you could take 2 elective subjects, pass, fail, as a senior in your last semester, with the idea that you would sort of expand your range of knowledge and explore some things and not have to worry about your grade point average. So I decided to take this speech course from Miss Cupp. When I walked into her room, she immediately challenged me and said, "You're taking this pass-fail? You kind of don't have the intestinal fortitude to get in there and take this for a grade? Come on, what's wrong with you?" I'm sort of insulted. So I listened to that and I went down to the office and I changed it from pass-fail to go for a grade. And I gave my first speech like 10 days after that, and I got a D. I got a D because Miss Cupp thought that I had given a whiff of an apology in the first paragraph in terms of what I was going to say. So I want you to know that if I get struck by lightning in the next couple of minutes, Miss Cupp is alive and well, because I am going to apologize by saying I have attended these luncheons before, and I've attended the Habitat for Humanity Raise the Roof breakfast, and I am not Clive Rainey. Clive is unbelievable in his messages to everyone in Habitat. Extemporaneous speaker par excellence, funny, terrific stories, wonderful messages. I know that he's coming back. So I will absolutely positively look forward to that. But I have to give a disclaimer that I'm not quite there. I will say that the last time he spoke at the Raise the Roof breakfast, he talked about the multiplier effect. And as we talk about transformation, I want you constantly to be thinking about this multiplier effect, because it has a lot to do with how Habitat homes transform people and communities and what that transformation means to all those around them. So to transform or transformational, if you look it up in Merriam and Webster, the first definition would be to change in composition or structure. And certainly a Habitat home does that. The second definition is to change the outward form or appearance. And certainly a Habitat home does that. The third definition, and the one I want to focus on, is to change the character or the condition. So we are going to explore ways in which coming together as a team to build a Habitat house is transformative for individual members of that family. It's transformative for the family. And I think when we all step back, we realize that when we look at McKibben Common and we think about the potential for Johnson Village, that we are transforming an entire neighborhood. And that entire neighborhood is then touching community. So first and foremost, structurally, clearly, the land is transformed. I mean, it's no longer a vacant lot. You now have a home with sewer, electric, foundation, and a building that is built to last. And this transforms the ground and, I believe, transforms the surrounding community. It transforms the neighborhood. And when you think about McKibben Common and what you see in that cul-de-sac in terms of those homes, you are talking about neighbors who are sharing and caring and loving one another. You're thinking about children at play. Every time I go by there are bicycles and tricycles and all kinds of play paraphernalia out in the cul-de-sac. And think about your childhood friends, those friendships that you made playing with your childhood friends, and what those meant to you in a transformative way in your life. And when the entire neighborhood is developed like that, I'm going to submit to you that you transform the school. You transform the neighborhood elementary school that those children are going to be attending, because they are friends, they're working together, they're riding the bus together, and the community, I think, is enhanced by that. Stable housing in that neighborhood and in that community is going to mean fuller lives. People actually live longer in those situations, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. They are voters, they are workers. There is an opportunity for the students to be successful. And I remember probably 5 or 6 years ago, the video that Habitat produced for the Raise the Roof breakfast. And it had a Vietnamese family that was living in a garage with 2 daughters. And they applied for and got a Habitat home. And those 2 daughters went on both to become physicians. And I can tell you that on the medical staff that I work with at Peace Health Southwest, there are a number of physicians in that circumstance, Vietnamese boat people who were rescued at sea, moved to the United States, family units developed in a situation like this, extraordinary educations, extraordinary dedication. And now I want you to think back about the multiplier factor. Those physicians are touching all of these other lives. And in the McKibben Common, think about one of those students attending school, becoming a Miss Cup, who dedicates their life to education, and what that kind of multiplication factor means. So family units mean the world of success to any community, to any country, because within the family unit that you develop your values, who you are, how you can dream, how you can model, how you can be mentored, the mentors that are around you, and how they can be developed. So all of this transformation is taking place, but the final focus individually is the transformation that I think you could hear in Christabel's life, the transformation that you could hear in Christabel's husband's life. She talked about a decrease in stress. She could laugh. She could manage financial emergencies. There was an overwhelming sense of warmth. I looked at that video and I thought, they don't need me to speak. They have got this all laid out. Christabel can tell you what this whole thing feels like. So a sense of family, a sense of warmth, stable and affordable housing that allows families to get good nutrition. Christabel talked about the fact that they sleep better, quit having nightmares, the anxiety is much less. And in those circumstances, the social determinants of health make a huge difference. I mean, people live longer. They have much improved overall health. Think about the pandemic. If you don't have a home that you can go to when there's a lockdown, where do you go? What do? You are totally lost. But here's the real take-home message from me today to you, and that is, when you participate on a building team, that you are transformed. You, as the giver in that situation, in the build, you are transformed, because you know, one, you are making a difference. 2, you are part of a team, and socialization is a huge thing for human beings. And when you socialize, your brain changes. We can literally look at what happens to certain areas of the brain. They get bigger, they get stronger. You get, when I looked at Christabel's video, I got this warm feeling all over. That warm feeling all over, that's called an endorphin response. So endorphin is a hormone that you make that your brain absolutely loves. And that's what gives you that warm feeling. So it's like your own intrinsic opioid. The brain has receptors for it. The brain loves it. And when you looked at that first video that Habitat produced and all those people were smiling, laughing, all of that makes a huge difference in people's ability to live out their life. And in fact, with that kind of joy, you have an altered immune response. I mean, we can measure in you improvement in your cytokines and all these things that we measure that are part of a healthy life. And we can tell in those situations that in that community setting, your blood pressure is lower, your heart rate is better. All of the little, what we call micro-inflammatory factors that contribute to hardening of the arteries and problems with congestive heart failure and the things that end up being chronic diseases in America that shorten lives, all of those things are made significantly better. So yes, you are transformed physically and mentally by being a giver of yourself on this build team. And you know in your heart that you are making a positive difference in some small way. And it's those positive differences in small ways, in some, that make a huge difference in the overall community, for families, and for all of us together. So knowing in your heart of hearts that you did your best, and you did, you literally are transformed. And in that transformation, the world, through stable housing, one individual, one family, one community, one nation at a time, is transformed in a very positive way. And I will submit to you, now it's possible to even measure physiologically what this transformation means, both to Christabel and her family, and to you and to your family. So it is a very broad street, a wonderful avenue, and I am so pleased to have been a part of Habitat and what they represent in this community and the difference that they make. And it is this difference, one at a time, multiplied over and over. Thank you, Clive Rainey. That makes an overall difference for the entire community and potentially the entire world. So thank you very much for allowing me to expound on transformation and how it takes place through stable housing. God bless to all of you. And I think it's very exciting to have people of multiple faiths come together to develop this kind of transformation. It is spiritually what our entire world needs at this point in time. So thank you very much for this opportunity. And thank you again, Bruce, for that lovely introduction. And I think at this point, we have Josh Townsley, who's going to talk about the state of Habitat. Josh, thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Greaves. What a powerful message. And I have to tell you that when I was 5 or 6, I dreamt of becoming a doctor and following in my grandfather's footsteps, who's a MD, and my mom, who's a registered nurse. And I can't understand everything you just said about endorphins and everything, but well, I'll tell you, we have a word for that at Habitat. We call it habititis. So you've been infected with Habitat, and so appreciate you describing that. You know, the transformation is often so easy to see with our families that, like Christabel that we just heard from, and we'll hear from another family here in just a minute. It's easy to see that transformation, but we don't always talk about the transformation of the people who are giving and serving. So we appreciate your service and your time today joining us. Just a powerful message. It obviously has been a difficult year during COVID for not only for all of us as individuals in our homes and families, but as Habitat as an organization. You know, Habitat relies on the thousands of hours of volunteer service we get from people like all of you and from other faith communities in Vancouver and Clark County and from corporations and other community groups. And just over a year ago, all that came to a screeching halt. You know, we went from having 20 plus volunteers on site 4 or 5 days a week to just those of us working from home in our home offices and a few construction staff that were working socially distanced on site, building homes and repairing homes. So it's been a difficult year, but you know, I'm proud to say that our team, our board of directors, our staff have continued and worked to continue serving families all through Clark County during this process, and are very excited to bring back volunteers hopefully pretty soon here. So I want to just share a couple of the challenges we've faced through COVID. Of course, obviously, the lack of volunteers is the biggest one. We also saw our Habitat for Humanity store, where you can donate used appliances and furniture and other building materials and purchase those materials as well, shut down. We closed the store for pretty much all of April and May, as well as a good portion of September during the wildfires and the smoke that was all through the area. So that financially, you know, hurt our affiliate. That some of those funds, you know, all of those net proceeds are used for building more homes, for repairing homes, for our neighborhood revitalization program, and all of that had to pause for a while too. The store has reopened. We hope all of you have been able to go in there safely and look for some used furniture or other fun finds to bring to your homes, but we're glad to see them up and running again. We also saw a lot of our families deal with unemployment or issues with childcare or you know, needing to take care of loved ones who were experiencing signs and symptoms of COVID-19 or other challenges. So a lot of our families saw a huge decrease in their finances. Fortunately, through the Clark County Community Foundation, as well as Thrivent Financial, one of our other amazing partners, we've been able to provide mortgage assistance for all of our families. So even through the last 12 months, not a single one of our families has faced eviction or foreclosure. Everybody is current on their mortgages because we've been able to come in and provide mortgage assistance and make sure that, you know, with everything going on, the last thing we wanted them to worry about if they experienced job loss or any other financial constraints was we didn't want them to worry about having a home at night. So we're happy to say that our families, you know, have been able to continue thriving in their homes. It's been a difficult year, but they've always known they have a safe place to sleep at night throughout this year. So our construction and repairs have continued. Construction, you know, we just have 2 or 3 staff on site, plus our amazing AmeriCorps volunteers. We have 2 AmeriCorps members that dedicate their year to, it's volunteering, but it's 40 hours plus a week where they're volunteering on site for the full year with us. So they've been able to continue building homes. In just a minute, we'll hear about one of those families, but it's at a much slower pace. You know, without having the barn raising model where we have 20 individuals coming out and helping, you know, raise walls or frame a roof or, you know, drywall, appliances, cabinets. It takes a lot longer with just a couple people out there. And our repair program has also slowed down quite a bit. I think all of you know that we do homeowner repairs. This is working to keep our most vulnerable people in the community in their homes, whether they can't afford to hire a repair person or they're often have disability or they're in their senior years in life and can't get on the roof to repair shingles or paint their house. Sometimes they need a wheelchair ramp or their bathroom floor is rotting from years and years of use. They can call Habitat and we're able to come in there and help them with those projects and make sure they can stay in their home. So those projects have slowed down, of course, also because we can't have volunteers right now working on those projects, especially working inside somebody's home. But we've been able to keep things going using subcontractors and taking on jobs at just a slower pace. But we are so excited to see that the vaccine is starting to reach all throughout the county of all different ages, and hopefully soon to be able to start welcoming back volunteer groups. Our neighborhood revitalization program, also took a turn for what our priorities were for the year. We've been working in the Fourth Plain corridor now for about a year and a half, 2 years, and had all of these plans for the projects we're going to be doing, and all of that changed with COVID hitting. And it became more important for Habitat and all of those community partners that are involved in that, Fourth Plain Forward and Clark County and other nonprofits, to instead focus their energies and efforts on eviction and foreclosure prevention, and work at lobbying the city and the state of Washington to make sure that we can keep families in our home during this difficult time. So they've been really powerful voice in the Fourth Plain area, and we're so happy that we've been able to be a part of that. I think it's telling that during this Faith Partners event, we're pretty much all sitting in our homes right now, except for Bruce, who's outside enjoying the lovely nature. Home has become so much more than just a place to sleep. You're witnessing me in my home right now. My 2 little ones are at daycare, fortunately. Otherwise, he would not be able to hear me, and it'd be a little bit chaotic in here. But home has become a place where we take care of our kids during the day because they're unable to go to school. It's where we homeschool our kids. It's where we have our home offices set up. It's been where we celebrate our anniversaries and birthdays that potentially used to be at, down the street at the favorite restaurant, but now they're inside our home. So it's a place where we recreate, where we gather, where we fellowship, where we worship. I know all of us have experienced that with our places of worship having to shut down and instead offer virtual fellowship and worship time. So home has become so much more important this year. And we're so thankful for all of you who have continued to support Habitat and think about us through this time and help us get through this time. I want to share just one quick video. It's just 2 minutes long about one of the families we did support in 2020 with all of your support. And you may not have been able to physically volunteer on site, but your prayers and your donations and your emails of encouragement helped us to support this family. So let me bring them up here.
Hi, my name is Ting, and this is my wife, and my son, and my daughter, and my son, younger one. Okay, that's it. We are from Myanmar, or Burma, and we are coming from the refugee. And we are from Myanmar to Malaysia, and we stay there about 3 years, or almost 4 years, 4 years and a half, and over there, and we coming to the America. So in the first time, in here, the American, we're thinking for the future plans, and we also working, but in the future, we wanna get our own home, our own place. That's our hope and also our dream. It's really hard for us, our family. Only I'm working, so maybe only one person working cannot get it to get a house. Right here, I hope maybe we'll have a big yard, so that will be safe, and for the kid and also our family is very safe to stay here.
Time I still remember, that I opened the mail house, then coming the mail, the happy the envelope. So what is coming? So I go my house, and then I'm not open yet my door. So I just pray first. What this year I want to get this happy the community is our house. I want to get this house. So please give us the God. So I just pray first. Then after that I go inside my house. Then I open the envelope. So congratulations is coming. Oh, I remember that. I take
the next step.
take the photo, and then I send message to my husband. So he's also very happy. Wow, this year we can praise the Lord.
For everyone, donor or volunteer, and also Habitats, for our family, we are very appreciate for your helping, and for your donor, especially the Habitats, they get to help us to family, to everyone. Thank you so much for helping to our family and to get a new house.
Well, I hope all of you will get an opportunity to meet the Mangshang family in person someday. They're such a wonderful family, and while we couldn't be on the site with them for their home dedication, we are so happy to celebrate and get them into their home during 2020. And despite all the challenges we faced during COVID, Habitat continues to move forward. And this year, you may have heard, is actually our 30th birthday, our 30th anniversary of serving in Clark County. We started in the basement of some local churches in 1991. And really those first 10 or 12 years was just all volunteers working to serve families here in Clark County, including the Johnson family, the very first home in 1993. And look where we are. We've served more families than I can count, more families than I can name through home ownership, through repairs, through neighborhood revitalization. And we're just so excited for the next 30 years. So what's coming up next? That's probably what you want to know. We, if you did not hear, about 2 months ago, we purchased and dedicated the land off of 162nd and named it Johnson Village after Ray and Harriet Johnson, two of our longtime donors and volunteers and champions. That Johnson Village will be the home to 9 new Habitat families. As we speak, the City of Vancouver is reviewing our land use subdivision application. They'll be done in about 2 months or so. And then we'll start putting in the streets and the sewer and the water later this summer, and hope to be building our first homes this fall. 9 homes is a lot though, so we're going to need all of your support. We're going to need your help with volunteering, with raising funds, with providing lemonade to the volunteers who are hot and tired during the day, so many different ways. One of those homes will be a faith-built home. We are so excited to partner with all of you again to make this possible. Just like Christabel's homes, one of these families you'll be able to partner with and work with and get to know and share your journey and hear more about their journey, and just work to transform their lives, as well as feel your own life be transformed. Our goal for that house is $75,000. That's money that goes towards the cost of lumber, towards windows, appliances, doors, the whole bit. During COVID, we've actually seen the cost of lumber skyrocket. It's not all COVID related. There's been some other stuff that's caused the cost of lumber to go way up, but it's caused our costs to go way up as well. So raising these funds are all the more so important now to make these homes happen. We've had several faith communities help us already with that $75,000. We've actually already raised over $30,000 from Bethel Lutheran Church, Cascade Presbyterian, Catholic Daughters of the Americas, Eastwoods Presbyterian, First Church of Christ, Emmanuel Lutheran, Knights of Columbus, and the Salmon Creek United Methodist Church, as well as other faith communities that continue to give and support Habitat throughout the years. So we so appreciate all of you who have already supported the project, and we look forward to working with you in the future. So how can you get involved? First, of course, you can volunteer. You can't volunteer tomorrow. You can't volunteer the next day. But our hope is that we'll be able to open up back to volunteers here in the next couple of months. We're really just following the guidance of the CDC and the state of Washington and waiting until things are safe. But we're hopeful that that's going to be pretty soon. So bringing groups out from your faith community, from your coffee club, your book club, whatever, or just you and your family coming out, we'd love to have you join us that way. You can support the store. You can do that today even until 6 p.m. when they close by bringing in gently used items to donate or coming in and purchasing items for yourself. One thing you can do, we always talk about hearts, hands, and voices. Voices can be so powerful in helping us, as Clive called it, the the most powerful tool is the ringing of hammers. So one way you can help us bring more hammers to the worksite is allowing us to come to your faith community or other group to speak about Habitat and share ways they can get involved. And you can do that through contacting any of us, and we'll get that set up. And then, of course, the last thing you can do is contribute towards that faith-built home, whether as a faith community, a church, or as an individual. We'd love your support. We're so excited. I'm hopeful that that faith-built home will be one of the first homes we start this fall, and can't wait to partner with all of you. Lastly, of course, stay in touch with us, and you can do that through social media, through our email newsletter, through coming into the store, and eventually we'll be back in the office. You can say hi and ask how things are going, all different ways. So we so appreciate you. Dr. Greves, Bruce, thank you for sharing your words with us this morning. I think Clive would be proud, Dr. Greves. I just saw him a couple days ago. He is coming back. I'm very excited for that. We'll have more about that soon, but I think you can hold your own. You were amazing and such a powerful message. So in wrapping up today, I want to pass it over to Larry Seward, who's a member of the Salmon Creek United Methodist Church and one of our longtime supporters.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Here at Salmon Creek United Methodist Church, we are truly blessed because we have a congregation that is very supportive and giving. And we also have a congregation that's very talented in building. And we've been building Habitat houses for many, many years and helping. Our journey started back in 2006 when our youth group wanted to go down to Mississippi and rebuild homes after the hurricane in Katrina. And our congregation raised $12,000. We sent there were about 15 of us that went down there for a week. And that was so successful that the next year we did it again. The congregation raised another $12,000 and off we went for that a week. So when we came to 2008, we thought that God maybe was asking us to step out and do a little bit more. So one of our church members is Larry Shear, and he was on the board for Habitat. And he made the suggestion that maybe we should try a Habitat house. So we stepped out in our faith, and we raised $60,000, and we built our own house. It took us, I think, a little more than 6 months, I think Christabel said. Worked every Saturday just about, and it was so rewarding, so rewarding. The whole congregation took part in it. And John talked about transformation. That really was transformed for our church because it really pulled us all together to work as a family. And so we came out stronger, even though raising that money and building that house was just so rewarding. So like I said, it took 6 months, but in December of 2008, we moved in Christabel and her daughter, Clarissa. And it was just so rewarding. One of our motto for the whole thing was everyone is a builder, but behind every builder is God. And that guided us through the whole project. If I might relate about the Christabel, her landscaping, she's a master gardener. So when it came time to landscape, we sat down with her and said, you know, would you like this? Would you like that and whatnot? And I helped organize a plan and got the supplies. And we came to her house on that weekend, about 60 of us, could be more than 60. And what I did is I assigned all the groups in our church a project. So The finance committee bought fruit trees and planted them. Another committee, Bible study, built the arbor. Another committee built the fountain. Another committee planted the blueberries. I mean, we just attacked that piece of ground. And I got to visit Christabel a couple months ago, and I was so pleased to see all those fruit trees just going like mad, and all the plants and everything. It was just so rewarding to see. And then it's also rewarding to see how she really enjoys that house. And we still talk about that all the time in our mission teams, what we're going to do and how successful that was. So we're just so glad that we can take part in the Habitat. And we look forward to another time to get out there and start building.
Thank you, Larry. As Josh mentioned, I'm sitting on my back porch, and my next door neighbor has decided this is a great time to mow his lawn. So take that opportunity to thank you all for tuning in, for your support. Please, as Josh mentioned, stay connected to us through Facebook or Instagram or our newsletter. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to call the Habitat office, and you can get through to the appropriate staff person. We are very, very grateful for the support that comes from the faith communities of Clark County. We live in a very fortunate place, and we want to make the most of it. So with that, let me say goodbye, and God bless you, and thank you again for your presence.